Welcome to Pound for Pound ATL, arguably the best place to get facts and opinions on your Atlanta Falcons. And absolutely the best place to get your opinions in. The guys are here, the chat is ready, and the conversation starts now.
What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another live rendition of the Pound for Pound, best place to get your opinion heard. I'm joined by my main man, Toby D. And,
yes, sir.
Man, we got some stuff to talk about today. Man, what's going on, Toby?
Man, it's game plan week. It is official. I'm trying not to hit my camera right now because I'm just that excited.
Yeah, don't do that.
Man.
Don't hit the camera.
Week 1, Philadelphia Eagles, man. Let's go.
That's right.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I mean, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Albeit obviously the game that's coming up, but man, we did it in a sense. Like we made it through the draft, man. We made it through the off season, and for the most part, like the team made it through relatively healthy. Like
yes.
they finally put Sheffield.
Yep.
They finally put him on IR today, which was a move we kind of saw, coming from a mile away. He didn't practice for the vast majority of training camp itself. So we were all kind of surprised that he made it on the final cut, but they finally put him on IR today. So I wonder if they promote Chris Williamson, the undrafted cornerback that got a lot of play, that's on the practice squad. So it'll be interesting to see like how that transpires as the rest of the week goes out. Got a lot of good stories today out of Flowery Branch. Story about the mindset of Terry Fontenot, which we'll get into here in a bit. We re-signed Quadre Olison to the practice squad. So, which in an earlier press conference, Arthur Smith kind of alluded to the fact that Olison wasn't necessarily done, with the Falcons. So I thought that was interesting. In this day and age, I'm surprised you didn't just sign Gallman to the practice squad, right off the rip, instead of doing what they did, releasing, Olison. But it come out that it may had to do more with the special teams. Like Olison apparently didn't play a ton of special teams, so maybe that was something that they felt Gallman would be better at. So we'll be interested to see how that plays out. But above all else, in a sense, we've got the official depth chart today for the Philly game. And I don't know about you, but this has got to be the first time I think I've ever seen a depth chart listed in 12 personnel. We made a big deal about it all off season, talking about what you're going to do out of it, what you could do out of it. And almost to a point where I felt like we done made such a big deal about it, he ain't never going to run it kind of thing. Like we made such a big deal that I felt like he was just going to not do it just to prove us wrong, so to speak. But then to have your depth chart listed in 12 personnel, I thought that was an interesting move. Even back in the day when you had Julio, Calvin, and Russell, you knew that was your 3 wide receivers, but a lot of times they had Russell listed as Calvin's backup.
Right.
So you didn't technically have him listed as a starter. And I know this is all just nitpicking, nuance type stuff, but this is the stuff that really that we dig into, right? Is the nitpicking nuance, like we try to read the tea leaves. And I wanted to get your opinion on this, and I purposely didn't ask you this before we went live because I wanted a true reaction.
My true reaction.
Right, exactly. I ain't trying to stage nothing or whatever, but what is your thoughts on having Keith Smith listed as a tight end?
Well, I mean, here's what I think about that, because you got your tight ends essentially playing halfbacks anyway. So Keith Smith is going to be able to play that same exact type of role. And you've been seeing him in all of the practice film, getting touches, whether it's running the football or catching the football out the backfield or lining up and running routes
right
on, the routes that they know he can run. I like it because they really seem to believe that this guy is more capable than the opportunities he's been given in the past to do some of the things that they've seen him do in practice. So I like that move too. And Arthur Smith admitted it today and said it that Keith will have a big role on this offense, especially on special teams as well. So we know he's good at special teams as well. So I like the move.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting. I didn't initially. Okay, it's kind of like the Cordell Patterson thing, right? Early on, my mind wouldn't let me accept Cordell Patterson as anything other than just a return guy, because that's what he's been. Even though from Jump Street, from word go, they had Cordell Patterson listed as your number 2 back. They treated him as a number 2 back. They treated him as a starter, but it's like my mind just would not come off of it. And it's almost like the same deal with Keith Smith. When that depth chart first got released, like I glossed over his name. Like I wasn't even looking for Keith Smith, And then somebody on Twitter, pointed it out that he was listed as a tight end, and I was like, I kind of did like a double take, almost like a dog shaking his head, like what, and I pulled it back up and looked at it, and I was like, well, sure enough, he is listed as a tight end. And then I thought back to all those clips we saw, all the the time that spent at Mercedes-Benz Stadium at the open practice, the time spent up at Flowery Branch watching them practice, and thought to myself, man, it was like you did see Keith Smith running out in a lot of routes and catching balls out of the backfield. It definitely, I don't know how all this is going to pan out, but it does not seem like these coaches are paying lip service.
Right.
And that's something myself as a fan am going to have to get used to, because I'm so used to the Mike Smith and the Dan Quinns not saying anything really. So when you do get some like snippets from Arthur Smith, it's almost like I'm gonna have to retrain myself how to like take them seriously,
right?
And retrain my brain for it not to be just coach speak, and which is nice,
Yeah.
So, well, on the depth chart, was there anything else that like stood out to you?
I will say this, for all of those in the preseason kept talking about Kyle Pitts being second string this and second string this, you can put that down now. He is now first string.
Yep.
Because all of the people that kept talking about, I can't believe we got a 4th overall pick. Kyle Pitts is second string behind Hayden Hurst. That is over. Kill it.
Right, because you got Kyle Pitts, and then behind him is listed Lee Smith. Right. And then you got Hayden Hurst, and behind him is Keith Smith. Now, you got to feel like Lee Smith and Keith Smith, we'll call them the Smith duo, they're probably there, as much for blocking as anything else, Like, yes, I think that they're going to use, I think you hit the nail on the head, I don't know, maybe a week, 2 weeks ago when you were talking about Keith Smith playing more of a Patrick DeMarco kind of role.
Right.
And so that, I think, like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Is he going to, block? Yeah, he's going to block. He's going to pave the way. But he's also going to be, heavily involved in, little wheel routes and dump offs and stuff like that.
Right.
I honestly feel like what we're fixing to get is a more of a dink and dunk offense, more of a run after the catch offense than, bomb it down the field offense. So, but the downside of that is like, is Arthur Smith going to be able to strike quickly if he has to?
Yeah.
When you want to play that ball control, plotting, dink and dunk offense, and you got to have a score and you got 2 minutes to do it, can you do it? And that's right. Like, those are some of the things that are going to have to be answered as we go throughout the season. You're not going to answer all these questions in week one. But those are some of my like early concerns about, about this offense.
Yeah, so I've let go of the headache of that. When I tweeted out yesterday, after a certain situation, I tweeted out yesterday, I'm not even going to try to figure out what they're going to do anymore. I'm just going to wait till Sunday because it's been a headache trying to even figure out what Arthur Smith them is doing. And they have accomplished their goal, by the way. For people that don't listen to Nick Sirianni over there with the Philadelphia Eagles, the new head coach over there, Arthur Smith them have accomplished their goal, and they have not shown a thing. And all Nick them can go by is past stuff, and that's what they're going to be kind of basing everything off of, and hoping somewhere in that game they can adjust if Arthur Smith and Dean Pease pop out a lot of the stuff they've done in the past.
That's right.
On film. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, somebody, I was in I know y'all probably have heard me mention it quite a bit, but I was in a space chat over the weekend, which was it was a pretty popping chat that time. So if any of y'all that are in the chat now or in that I hope y'all enjoyed that because I had fun. But somebody had, man, I lost my train of thought there. Somebody was saying about like going back and watching like Tennessee's film, and my point was like, because they're going to be like Philly and them are going to be asking the same questions that we were asking all off season.
Right.
Like, was the Tennessee offense more dictated by the personnel that they had?
Right.
And honestly enough, like, with them having a whole new coaching staff, and I don't want to get into too much about the Philly game, but with them having a whole new coaching staff, our guys are going to be asking the same questions. Like, like how much of it can you go back and look at? Like, Deion Jones today was talking about, they do a good job about getting us prepared and giving us cut-ups, and like we all know the film cut-ups that the players get. And I wonder how much of those film cut-ups for Jalen Hurts was actually Oklahoma and Alabama film.
Yeah, and that is something that we can get heavily into on Friday.
Right. And speaking of that, we're going to try something new. We're going to be live streaming Friday nights, starting at about, I think we're going to shoot for probably 8 o'clock, 8:30, somewhere around in there. I'll tweet that out and I'll put a message on the thing, but we're going to be doing like a scout team type deal. We're going to be live streaming where we're going to get like real deep into the opponents that are coming up, and we may have, if I can figure out some technicals, like we may have an interesting segment with some fans as well going forward. But we'll see how all that transpires. But yeah, I think we're definitely going to be live streaming Friday night, talking more about the Philly game, and in hopes of having Jimmy and Mike back as well by then. They obviously y'all seen that they hadn't been able to join us. Life happens, work happens, things like that. So we're going to try to see if we can add another show and get them back on board. But I think that's good for our opening salvo, as we tend to do. Let's go ahead and jump in chat and see where everybody's at. Joseph says, what's up? He says, yo, what up, P for P? What's going on, Joseph? Glad you're here. Same thing with Woon Carter. He says, rise up, pound for pound family. It's game week. Can I get a rise up one time? Rise up.
Rise up.
That's right. Dexter Vallis says rise up, or Dexter Vlash, excuse me. Jay Holland, same thing with him, and Gerald Reed.
Hey.
Man, I'm glad all y'all decided to jump in here with us tonight. Braylon and Bubba Gump. Joshua Malavy, he's in here with us. Dexter brought up the point that we re-signed Olison. Yeah, I'm happy about that. Like, I would rather him be on the active roster and be RB2, but maybe he's got some more he needs to show the coaches. You don't get to see every practice, so who knows, right?
So
go ahead.
So before we continue in the chat, let me talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I know we're going to get to there's some things that Tori McElhaney has said about Terry Fontenot, and she wrote a nice article on him about the roster. The first thing we got to understand is that Arthur Smith said that Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson would be the first ones to get a crack at being number one and number two. Now, that to me means if they don't perform well, they won't stay at number 1 and number 2. So you got guys like Huntley that you brought back on the practice squad, and Quadri Olison that's right there, and Gallman that you have signed to the active roster. Okay, so that thing could shift around somewhere in this season if they're really serious about getting the run game going, and the 2 guys they're giving a crack at it first don't get it going well.
Right. Yeah.
I'm hoping they do, but
that's a good point. Like, and again, like I said, that's something I definitely want to get into because that article was very interesting. So keep right on rolling. Fred Butt says, can't wait to watch Kyle Pitts destroy the Eagles. That's what we're hoping for. Finally get to see the unicorn in action, so to speak. Eric Thomas says, early prediction, Mike Davis will rush for 115 yards and a touchdown. And,
I hope he does.
and then Adam, our buzzkill friend from up north, he says, not against the Philly front he won't. Adam, oh man, it's gonna be a long season with you, bud. Thiago says it's time to rise up. That's right. That's what we are doing. Blizz and Genuine Music says, what's up? What's going on, guys? Glad y'all are here with us. Ty Jackson says the pressure for Matt Ryan to produce an MVP is at the highest level. He is going to be on, or he's going to be on the move next year. Wild card 2021 for the Falcons. Yeah, it's an interesting amount of like narrative that's going around with Ryan as far as the amount of pressure. He had some interesting quotes today talking about feeling like he's already, gelling with Smith. Then he had everybody in an uproar on the Twitterverse talking about he don't think this is going to be the same team in November and December, alluding to like ever evolving process. So it'll be interesting to see how all that, that's my buzzword right now. It'll be interesting because I don't know what else I'm supposed to say because God, it could be all over the place. Charleston Nash says, finally caught a live show, fellas. I'm back. Man, glad to see you, Charles. I hadn't seen you in a while.
You back, Charles.
Jimmy Wright, our old man Jimbo Slice is up in chat. So hopefully, like I said, we can get him back on some live streams this coming fall. YMFO Jamal says, what's up, pound for pound family? What's going on, buddy? D Sloan says, Patterson will run the ball, but only on trick plays and trick formations. I see Smith using him more as a kick returner, kick return, punt return inside, and then the slot. He is the wild card. It's going to be, man, I don't know how they're going to line him up. Like, if they truly see him as a number 2 back, then, it's going to be great. Melvin says, what's up, Toby and JR? What's going on, buddy? Jarvis Williams says, what's up, fellas? I have I have to invest in DirecTV to watch the Falcons. I live in Missouri and don't care for the Chiefs, Bears, or Green Bay. I don't know if I guess because they're on local. I was going to say you could try YouTube TV, but that's only going to carry your local channels up there. So, you may have to. Or you can do what a lot of people do, just invest in Game Pass. You won't be able to watch it live per se, but you can then turn around and watch, watch it like right afterwards kind of deal.
Right.
So I don't know what your situation is, but that might be a cheaper alternative for you. Let's see. Fred Butt says, I think Arthur Smith will pass a lot more with the Falcons. He may have to until he can really get it going. I know he's going to want to run. At least all indications say that he wants to run. Yeah. So it's going to be I'm going to be curious to see how many pass attempts Ryan has on Sunday. Let's see. Okay, he says Mulvaney. Mulvaney is Joshua's last. I have probably said it 5 million different ways. So Joshua, I apologize. Mulvaney. Okay, I'm going to try to remember that and do better. Only Miss says, I don't see Mike Davis being a threat. He's not exactly Michael Turner. Yeah, if any of y'all watched that video I put out over on Monday, I know it was a holiday, so y'all might not have seen it, but I took a closer look at the running back room, and we do have a running back room full of the other guys kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my point, is that it worked out with us back in the day with Michael Turner, but I don't think Turner was as old or had been in the league as long as Davis had at that point. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to expect. I have reservations about how effective Mike Davis is actually going to be. And that's without even factoring in like the state of the O-line, which we haven't gotten into yet.
Right.
So that's going to have a big impact on any run game. Is like, how well does this O-line play? Like, how quickly do they gel? That's a unit that, above everything else, you would have liked to have seen more of in the preseason, which is something that we have talked about quite a bit. Like, that's one of the first major coaching decisions that Arthur Smith made. Like, not playing his guys, like what he considered to be his main core. He used that preseason to straight up and down evaluate the younger guys and the back end of his roster. So, he accomplished one goal. He didn't lose any starters. So, unless you consider Josh Andrews a loss, like, he didn't lose any starters. So he's going into the season, pretty healthy. So we're going to see how. Go ahead.
Yeah, Josh Andrews was going to start. I mean, make no mistake about that. He was the left guard. When you got Terry Fontenot coming out to see if a guy's all right, that tells you right there, Josh Andrews was starting. I mean, I had him pegged as a starter. I knew he was going to start, but he couldn't get past his injuries that he was dealing with, from cramps to breaking his hand and all of that stuff. So it's time. It's Jalen
Mayfield's time. I mean, Arthur Smith put it best. He's gonna have a baptism. Like, it's gonna be a baptism by fire. Like, you dealing with he may not be the prime spry that he was, a few years back, but Fletcher Cox is still that dude. And he's going to have to go head up with Fletcher Cox. Now, you got to hope that scheme is going to not leave him on an island, like, knowing that he is a, rookie. But, as a lot of people have pointed out repeatedly, it's not like Hennessy next to him's got a ton of experience either. Like, he started 3 games for us. So you could kind of consider him a rookie as well. So now you're talking about, the left side center of your offensive line, is now inexperienced and going up against what is considered to be a tough Philly, defensive line. Now, Jolt Gaming 9 says, I believe I saw Cox is in injury, which is, again, that's something we're going to get into more of on Friday, but that might change some complexity there if Fletcher Cox isn't in the lineup. Let's see here. Nick says, both scheme look good on paper. Hopefully they can bring it together on Sunday. Yeah, exactly. Like, the schemes that's what we're betting on, right? I mean, because it's not like we've had a major influx in talent. So what you're betting on as a fan base, what you're betting on as a front office, what you're betting on as Arthur, if you're Arthur Blank, is that the coaching is going to elevate the play.
Right.
Which obviously right now ain't none of us really seen it. So that's what really has us, concerned. Jordan Daniel says, what's up, guys? You guys ready to kick the Eagles blank Sunday? Ha ha. He says, I'm curious how many people Kyle Pitts is going to truck over in the game. Them small DBs and corners going to get ran over. I mean, yeah, like you going to put a small DB on Pitts. That's a mismatch nightmare. But that's why you drafted him at 4, to be a mismatch nightmare, to be all over the place, to keep defensive coordinators up at night. That's why you drafted him.
And let me just tell y'all right now, you don't think Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator over there with the Eagles, is not already up at night based on the potential of Kyle Pitts, and you lost your mind, because I've been listening to them and all of them mention Kyle Pitts every time they do a presser, and it ain't stopped.
Right.
So
Well, I mean,
just gonna throw it out there.
yeah, that's what you got to that's what you got to focus on. Let's see. Blizz says Hennessy, McGarry, and Mayfield. Oof. Yeah, but that's why you brought in, Dwayne Ledford. That's why the head coach you hired also has a background in O-line. Like, this shouldn't be, hopefully it will not continue to be an issue. Charleston Nash says, is there any draft prospects? Oh Lord, draft prospects. Charleston, we ain't even played the first game yet. And you over here talking about draft prospects. I can't do it right now, Charleston. I can't. My brain has been, I done geared that down. You're going to have to check with me on that one about mid-season, maybe. Sorry. Dwayne Bodie says, we will reserve a reserve spot for Josh Andrews. He says, I think Arthur Smith will scheme some plays to help the O-line. I mean, look, if you got as experienced the coaches as far as the O-line is concerned as we believe we do, they have to know that that's a weakness, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can't be surprised about it, right?
Let me tell y'all right now, I think a lot of people are going to be more surprised what Matt Ryan they see than what they think.
Oh, yeah.
And I know people are not counting on it, but that launch point where he's normally at, that a lot of defenses count on, which is why they're able to sack him, I think it's going to be constantly moving around like a compass, but you are not going to be able to figure out exactly where the launch point is this year. I'm already going on board saying it right now. No. You might see a lot more QB draws than what you expect out of Matt Ryan, and rollouts and all of that bootlegs and all of that stuff more so than you think. That speed training is about to come in real handy starting week 1 versus that.
Did they install NOS in him or something, or give him some steel legs? I don't know. I'm skeptical about how much speed you're going to get out of a 36-year-old.
Hey, let me tell you something. If it's time right, you're going to get enough speed. You don't need much.
Don't need much. I got you.
Everything is about time.
Oh, yeah. Now, that I agree with.
Right. Matt will take off, and before you know it, he'll have about 15, 20 yards and before you slide down.
And you'll be like, dang, did it again.
I'm betting on that. Because he can stay in that pocket, not with that defensive front.
Oh no, and not with that offensive line. I think that was part of the problem that you had the last couple of years is they were straight dropbacks.
Exactly.
Not a lot of rolling one way or the other. Adam says Mike Davis can be good. Have to use him this week on passes more to get him on the perimeter and make an underwhelming linebacker core work in space. Get Matt on boots, play actions, what we were just talking about, and get Pitts and Hurts involved. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's gonna be the week in and week out game plan. It's got to be, And so sorry about that. I had some. Y'all ever had a Greek salad? Mm-hmm. Okay, I made one tonight, right? And it probably went a little heavier on the onions than I should have. So, so y'all have to forgive me on that. All right. Keeping on. Track Star, Wounded Track Star says start Pitts in fantasy. I don't know much about fantasy. I know, Toby, I know you were involved in the world's longest draft.
Well, let's don't even get into that, but I tell you this, he is started on Sunday.
There you go. Yeah, I think so. I think you got to, right? I mean, you got, if you drafted him because you know he's going to get fed, right? So, let's see. Archangel. Man, I ain't seen Archangel in a minute. What's going on, Arch? I'm glad you're in here, brother. He says, glad to have Olesen back. Quad squad. Yeah, that's right. I'm glad he's back. I wonder how long it'll take him to work his way back onto the roster. Hopefully it won't be too long. Let's see. Jordan Daniel says, even if it ain't the year, we draft good next year for our deal. Y'all talking about the draft. We ain't even played a game yet.
I have a little faith. Ladies and gentlemen, come on now. No faith.
Ain't even played a game yet. We talking about a draft.
Hey.
Let's see. Charleston Nash says, who do y'all have breaking out this year? One on offense and one on defense. All right, that's a question that we'll go with for a minute. I think you're going to have a bigger year out of Hayden Hurst than what people. I think people are going to be so focused on Kyle Pitts when he's on the field that I think Hayden Hurst already having a rapport with Matt Ryan. I think he's going to end up having. Plus, it's a contract year for him, right? Now, I'm not saying that we're going to re-sign him, but I think Hayden Hurst is going to do everything he can to, ball out this year, to show that he's worth it, to show that, and also trying to show the coaching staff that, hey man, this is a good thing you got here. Let's keep this tandem together. So.
Mm-hmm.
And on defense, I will say I'm going to go ahead and pull off. I think Michael Walker is going to become a bigger household name. I think Michael Walker is going to end up being Dean Pees' chess piece because of his versatility, blitzing and covering and those kind of things. I think Michael Walker, it may not start week 1, but I think by the end of the year you're going to look at Michael Walker's stat sheet and go, holy Pete, he was all over the place. So that's my guesses. What's your guess there, Toby?
I got Cordell Patterson.
There you go.
I think he's going to have a bigger role than what people anticipate. Now, was said today, Arthur Smith said that Mike Davis was going to get the majority of the shared touches. He did say that on radio today. But I think Cordell Patterson is going to be a lot more explosive in the plays that he does get than what people think. And on defense, Deion Jones.
Yeah.
Now that he doesn't have to call the defense, I think this is going to give him more opportunities to roam the field freely and wreak havoc on any running QB coming out that backfield.
Oh yeah.
Or running back.
Yeah, I think Deion Jones is going to have a stellar year. And that can lead into an interesting thought. Were you surprised at all by any of the captain selections? No. I know some people read into that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily read into it, but to my understanding, this is the first year that they've had Calvin Ridley and Deion Jones as a captain. So, and I know that stuff is voted on by the players. So it's interesting to see that they're getting some respect there from their peers. And I tweeted out when they put it out there. I was like, "Oh, that's the core of your team,"
Exactly.
It was
they
right. It was Matt Ryan, Jake Matthews, Deion Jones, Calvin Ridley, and who was the other one?
Grady Jarrett.
That's right. Like, yeah, I mean, that's like right now when I think of the Falcons, those are the images that come to mind. So like it didn't necessarily surprise me to have those guys named as captains. Now some people like, again, not that you bring too much into it, but if you want like to compare and contrast, like Tua Tagovailoa down in Miami didn't get voted on as a captain, so they didn't always given that you're a captain, especially when it's peer voted.
Yeah, I think it's kind of odd because Jalen Hurts got voted as a captain. That with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Zach Wilson, a rookie.
Well, same thing with Trevor Lawrence.
As a captain with the Jets. Yeah. So
like Trevor Lawrence got voted as a captain when it wasn't until last week that they finally named him as the starter.
Right.
Now, granted, that could all be just whatever, but still, it's interesting to see like to not have your quarterback. That'd be interesting to see like how many starting quarterbacks didn't get. I bet you they didn't vote Andy Dalton as a captain up there in Chicago.
That'd be interesting if they did.
It'd be interesting if they voted Justin Fields as a captain and he's not even a starter. Week 1.
Boy,
that would be funny.
Oh, wow.
That would be like, that'd be stirring a pot. All right, anyway. Trackstar says, what are y'all's score prediction for week 1? He says he's got us winning 35-21. We'll get into that kind of stuff like on the Friday show. When we get into the scout team stuff, we'll make our predictions and things of that nature there. Let's see. Beetleborg says, who gets more touchdowns, Slide Ride or the Unicorn? Ooh, I don't know, man. Like, I actually see, like, for the first time in a while, I actually see our running backs scoring the majority of the touchdowns. I think, Pitts and Ridley are going to be the reasons why we're in the red zone. But I think once we get down in there, it's going to be a healthy dose of the run game, in my opinion. Let's see. Joshua says,
nice.
yeah. Joshua says, I'd like to see Ogundeji fall into a starting role. He had some flashes in preseason. That he did. And he's listed as the backup, the primary backup. Let me see here. Let's see. Where's he at? Right behind Dante Fowler. So,
Right.
You got to figure he's going to be heavily involved in the rotation. If he starts, playing well, I could see him unseating, like potentially unseating like Steven Means, because that's your other, like, starting outside linebacker. Now, were you interested in the fact that, like, for the first time, and everybody was clamoring for it for years, but for the first time, and I can remember, we are listed as a 3-4 defense, not a 4-3 defense, or not a 4-2-5. Now, granted, we're going to play a lot of 4-2-5.
Right.
But we are listed as a 4-3 or 3-4 defense. And then, other thing I want to get your opinion on, or your thoughts on, is I think you're seeing the Dean Pease effect when our safeties are listed as safeties.
Right.
Not free, not strong. They're just safeties. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So I'm not surprised by neither one. But we know, even though we're called a 3-4 defense, we know we're going to be multiple.
Right.
We're basically going to be whatever defense that we know our offense can't defend. So if you can't defend 4-3, and we start seeing those tendencies as the weeks go along, that you struggle with 4-3, that's who we're going to be. If it's 3-4, you struggle with, that's who we're going to be. If it's both you struggle with, that's who we're going to be. So I'm not surprised by that at all, but I'm glad that they are finally giving at least a title to it, because the other coaches would not do that at all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And, as far as what were the other question about the Dean Pease?
Yeah, like the fact that you have, like, something we have been saying all off season, but you have the safeties listed as just that, safeties, not free, not strong. It's just safeties, and I find that to be an interesting tell as well.
Right. So I mean, I love that he's not giving a specific title to them, because we know they're going to be versatile in what they do. They should be able to play all the positions.
Right.
Even the rover role, if it's called upon to do that, which I can see Richie Grant doing that a lot, starting out the first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Really roaming the field and doing a lot of things. They're going to have a lot of versatility, period. What I'm curious about, and I know a lot of people are concerned, is what that secondary really is going to look like as a whole, because we don't know truly what Fabian Moreau really is. You know what I mean?
And we're all just expecting AJ Terrell to take the second year leap. We're all banking on the fact that, he had such a wonky offseason last year with the COVID stuff, the lack of, training and all this, training camp and all this other jazz. So we're just betting on that he's going to take a jump. But as to your point, the only time we saw him out there on the field, he had a pass interference.
Right.
So I think it was a ticky-tack pass interference, but still, it was a pass interference. So, we're just hoping that he's going to take a leap and not have a, sophomore slump, as they say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no,
So
yeah. Go ahead. I was going to say, right now, my two biggest areas of concern are the offensive line and the secondary.
Right.
Like, those are my two areas until I can see them. Until I see him opening up holes for a run game, keeping Matt Ryan up off his back, deflecting passes, getting turnovers, till I can see it, they're going to be areas of concern for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You know, just like Chris James says, haven't seen Harris or Harmon play a down yet. Well, you saw Harmon, and it was him and Fabian Monroe that ran into each other.
Yep.
That let Austin Hooper have a real nice run down our sideline. So that doesn't necessarily like bode well or inspire confidence at this junction. But
right.
I think once we see a full game and a game that is game planned for and making adjustments and all that, I think a lot of our concerns will be either magnified or assuaded.
Yeah.
So Archangel says, will any of y'all be at the game Sunday? He says, I'll be in the building. Been a long time since we last opened up against the Eagles, and we won on a last heroic touchdown by Julio Jones. But I will not. I've probably visited Mercedes-Benz as much as I'm going to this year. I was fortunate enough to go to two of the two preseason games that were here. So that'll probably be it for me. I will be enjoying it from the comforts of my house where I can rant and rave all I want to. Yeah. So, all right, let's keep on moving. Joshua says, I think Dean Pease is a pretty straight up and down kind of dude. He's always going to have the guys flying all over the place and getting at the QB. Yeah, his style is a bend, don't break, and his style is bringing pressure. And the deal with that bringing pressure is that, if you don't get home, you're gonna take big plays if you don't get home.
Yeah. And we saw that in the Browns game off of blitz.
Exactly.
That I think Walker was not able to get to Baker, and they got burned.
That's right.
I mean, you're gonna take your lumps, but you know what? I would rather take my lumps not sitting on my hands than to be sitting on my hands and taking my lumps. And what I mean by that, straight attacking.
Yeah. Like if I'm gonna get beat in that sense, I'd much rather get beat coming at you than giving up that stuff underneath and letting the team just almost like unchallenged march down the field.
Right.
Exactly. That's the I'm so tired of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so hopefully hopefully what we'll see is an attacking defense. Dwayne Bodie says, I think it would be the variety of scores, the ball spread around. I mean, that's what made 16 successful, right? 2016 successful was the ball distribution, not being focused on, your top player. That was always my gripe with Cutter, is that he was hyper focused on his elite talent, which, I mean, that was his style. That was his style back in 2012. We just happened to have a little bit more elite talent in, White, Jones, and, Gonzalez. So, it was a little easier to spread it around. But, yeah, especially this past stint, doing research for another piece, I was going back and watching some games, and you could just tell that, it was push the ball down the field. Like that was the directive. That was the narrative.
Yeah.
And because there would be open people in the flats and Ryan's not even looking that way. He's.
Oh, well,
No. Yeah, all I was going to say is he's just looking for number 11 and number 18, 20 yards downfield. But.
I can tell you right now, Arthur Smith already said on radio again today, we got to do whatever we have to do to win this game. And that don't mean looking at one guy's weight. If that means check downs, whatever. See, they don't figure that out too. And they don't address that with Matt Ryan.
And you saw it in practice. You saw it in practice, the amount of, and also look at the talent that you brought in. What is one of the pluses of Mike Davis? He's real good catching the ball out of the backfield. What is one of the pluses of Wayne Gallman? He's real good catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yep.
And so, I think that's one of the things that's going to be beat into, Matt Ryan's head of, take what the defense is giving you.
Exactly. And that is something that has contributed to the sacks of Matt Ryan, too. We're always looking for the big play. and he gets his behind whack. And Arthur Smith, them, I can guarantee you are preaching to him, buddy, if you see that check down right there, take it. That's still 25, 30 yards you could possibly get when our offense and receivers take away the defense. Take the check down, bro.
I mean, hit that, in the scheme that Arthur Smith deployed up there in Tennessee. Like I've been saying it all off season. I don't know how else to say it. It was predicated on yards after the catch. Like that's what those those middle crossing routes are meant for. That's what those mesh concepts are meant for, to clear out, give people space, let them work. And if you look at the heat map of Ryan Tannehill, where he threw the daggone ball, it was the middle of the field. And, and it was the middle of the field about 10 to 15 yards down the field. So those are the things that, is going to be, a different type of message being sent to Ryan.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's going to be closer to looking like what 2018 looked like, with hopefully a little more cohesive game plan. Like that was kind of the problem with Sark, is sometimes it got a little wonky. But I mean, still, Matt Ryan put up, the ridiculous, technically speaking, he put better numbers up in 2018 than he did in 2016.
He did.
He did.
It just didn't get noticed how we had a losing season, but 38 touchdowns and 7 INTs.
Exactly.
7 or 8 INTs.
Right. So I think you're going to get more, more of that kind of offense, that kind of play, especially looking at the talent that you have, right? The style of receiver that you have in Calvin Ridley as your number one. He's not a Julio Jones. He's not a, physical alien freak. And you're not going to thrust all that on Kyle Pitts right out the gate. Kyle Pitts, I'm sure by midseason, towards the end of the season, we're probably going to view him a lot like Kansas City views Travis Kelce. As basically their focal point of their offense. But you're not going to expect that right out the gate. And Travis Kelce is also benefited by Tyreek Hill being able to take the top off. Different style of offense, but I'm just trying to give you a little bit better of a comparison. Let's get back into chat here. Now, somebody else, it was Ark maybe, who was talking about who's going to be in the building. Mr. CDX for Life says he's flying in from New York to go to the game. That's what I'm talking about, CD. That's good stuff right there. Beetleborg says, who are the Eagles linebackers? I hope the unicorn breaks their ankles. Holy crap. I hope they don't break no ankles, but I don't know. Like I said, that's the kind of things that we're going to be diving into on Friday. We're going to be diving into matchups and, personnels and all that good stuff. And I really hope y'all join us on Friday. Jordan says, Matt usually does spread the ball around. I can't remember what year it was, but he threw to 13 different receivers. That was 2016. He set a record throwing to. That's right. 13 different players. Beetleborg says when we play Dallas, it's going to be a great season. It's going to be a great. Yeah, no, it's like I hope they carve up that defense. Is all it's going to make me happy. Fred Butt says I'm not worried about the offense; they will score. I am worried about the defense, but Dean Pease is a 2-time champion, so we'll see. That's the one thing I keep leaning on, is not that, it's not like Dan Quinn in the sense of, he won, up in Seattle and then came here. Like, Dean Pease won in New England. And then he won again in Baltimore. And then he put together, a solid, not spectacular, but solid defense in Tennessee. That when he left, you saw the bottom fall out, in 2020, right? So it definitely wasn't the same looking defense without him there, without him calling the shots. So that's the part that has me encouraged what I'm worried about, and obviously this again ties into not seeing anybody play in the preseason, is that, we haven't really seen it. Like, okay, so in the first game against Tennessee, you gave up, 30 points? 30 or 31. I can't remember.
It's, I thought it was 23 to something. Ended up being like,
anyway.
I thought they only scored 23 in that game. I think they only scored 23.
Now you're going to have me look it up.
The Miami game, you gave up 37
But then the
points.
kicker, in a sense, is in, let's see, Tennessee, you gave up 23. You're right. So you gave up 23 in the first game, 37 to Miami, but then 19 to the Browns. 19. And the Browns played their starters more than anybody else that you faced. So, like, I think it's there, so it's just going to be like, how do these guys execute? What I liked seeing was Bullard impressed me. Jonathan Bullard impressed me.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Bullard.
Like, to a point where he's starting. He's starting. Next to Tyler Davison and Grady Jarrett, which I was glad to see. Because he impressed quite a bit, and then Michael Walker impressed in the preseason, and Ogundeji impressed in the preseason. So there was definitely a lot on the defensive side to really hang your hat on. Richie Grant looked good for a rookie. He had a couple good pass breakups, fourth down stop in Miami. So I'm excited to see how long does it take him to get acclimated, because I think that's the thing there is yes, Dean Pease his system is not super complex on paper once you learn it. Does that make sense? Because the principles, if you hear him talk, the principles build on each other, but you got to get there. And I think that's why you see, especially early on, Eric Harris and Deron Harmon starting.
Yeah. But I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know if you remember a while back when AJC had an article out when they first spoke to Michael Walker, and he said how Dean Pease saw them more like the Baltimore defense and not the Tennessee defense. Okay. So that's going to be interesting to see how much of that they emulate from the Baltimore days of Dean Pease as opposed to what they did in Tennessee. He sees something there to where he feels like these guys kind of resemble some things they did in Baltimore. So I'm definitely interested to see when they let a lot of that
because you got to think in Baltimore you had guys like Paul Kruger, which in a lot of ways match up to Kaminsky. You had guys like, Ed Reed. You had guys like Timmy Jernigan, as far as on the defensive line. So I could probably see more. Now, granted, you don't have, Terrell Suggs or Elvis Dumerville or Haloti Ngata,
but you may be able to get some semblance out of Jonathan Bullard, a little bit, a poor man's version of I
will say this, Bullard was a guy who, when we first signed him, I was kind of like, okay, whatever. I didn't really put much weight behind it, but he really shut my mouth, in that preseason. Because he looked real good, and
after that offsides penalty, he settled down tremendously, and I mean, he was getting it all the preseason games. He was the most consistent to me.
Oh,
he was hungry.
He was trying to show. That's for sure. He was trying to show. Yeah. Dwayne Bodie says, do y'all think Keith Smith will have his best year as a Falcon? I think he will have his – it's how do you define the best year, right? Because last year he wasn't used a ton. So – but when he was asked to play, he did good. I think he will have his most productive year. I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to say when you weren't asked to do much that you're saying that you had a bad year. I think he will have his most productive year as a Falcon. I think you're going to hear the name Keith Smith a lot more than you probably would think.
And I think this is another reason why he's listed as a tight end and not a fullback straight up, because his role, that is an indication his role
I
is a
think
lot
so.
bigger than what a normal fullback
Right.
would normally do. Now, I don't know what the fullback snaps were for Tennessee the past 2 years under
I can
Smith,
tell you.
but I think he's going to be a much bigger role
I
than
think
that.
so too. Now there were times with Tennessee that they that their fullback, which is what's his name?
I know it
His
was number
41
40,
is
if I'm not
Kyrie
mistaken. Yeah, 41,
Blasting
yeah.
game. He
Yeah.
let's see, he started 7 games, played 15. He had 5 targets and for 39 yards, and he didn't rush the ball at all. But I think, see,
Yeah.
again, like part of me is like, if you go back and watch like Tennessee, I don't think that's what he's trying to produce here.
Well, now I would on 92.9 the game. I'll go ahead and mention them. Smith said he's
No,
gonna
no,
be running the
okay,
ball.
okay.
That was
Let me rephrase that. I think he's like, I think his calling card is going to be running the ball and tight end play. What I'm
yeah,
talking about is like, I
yeah,
think the backs are going to be, it's going to be more of like obviously by committee, and I think
yeah,
they're going to catch,
yeah,
be catching the ball a lot more
yeah.
than he did up in Tennessee, because if you look at the receptions that, like Derrick Henry was only targeted 31 times last year, okay,
Right.
and then Jeremy McNichols was only targeted 17 times. So if you then add
Mm,
in the 5 targets for blasting game, like you're talking about like right around 50 targets for the running backs.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
all told with Cordell Patterson and Mike Davis and Wayne Gallman, I think you're going to have a lot more of that. And I think that's also one way they're going to offset the lack of wide receivers. That's what I
Right,
keep thinking about
right.
myself. Like,
Yeah,
you're talking about, like, if, again, going back to this depth chart, like this offensive depth chart, you only have 2 spots listed for wide receivers.
yeah.
So I don't think they're going to be relying, like, yes, they're going to be relying on Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage, but I don't think I don't think they're going to be relying on the wide receiver spot the way we have in the past. I think your
Right.
wide receiver 3 and 4 and all that jazz is going to be eat up by tight ends and running backs. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it does. It does. And um, I think it was Greg Cosell had mentioned that he's heard from a lot of defensive coordinators what they feel like this year teams are going to do is use more base personnel with 12 and 21 and 13 versus 11, because they want to force teams to put their base defenses out there and stay out there, especially when it gets into the
Right.
no huddle situation where you can't change and sub your fifth cornerback into the
Exactly.
lineup.
And that's like, it's funny how, like, if you go back and look through NFL history, like the game ebbs and flows, like trends come and go. They don't ever really go completely, but it's
Right.
like if you look at the history of the NFL, it's punch and counter punch between the offenses and the defenses. Defenses respond to
Right.
spread formations by getting faster linebackers who can cover better. So the natural answer to faster linebackers who can cover better is to condense the field and bring in heavier personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you can get
Yep.
guys like Hayden Hurst and like a Kyle Pitts who can do
Mm-hmm.
both in the sense of blocking and go
Yep.
running downfield, then in that aspect it
Yep.
gives you more options. Like, think about it like
Yeah.
this, folks. You see a bunch formation, right? 3 wide receivers bunched on the end. What that's trying to do is create space for one of the 3. Because when it splits,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating somebody open, right? It seems like what Arthur Smith's trying to do is doing that with an entire formation. Like he's condensing an entire formation to make the defense have to run through traffic to then figure out who's going to be open. Because I don't know how many times watching up in Tennessee you had Janu Smith run in and essentially punch somebody in the mouth and then run out. And when he runs out, because of how condensed that formation is, nobody went with him. And he's open.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's the kind of stuff that you're going to be seeing a lot more of.
Yeah.
Let's get back in. You got anything else to add there? I went on a little bit of a tirade.
No. I'm good. I'm good.
D. Sloan says, y'all said something. The wins need to match the stats, and Ryan will have more praise along with other winning quarterbacks. Exactly. If he has a stellar statistical year and the team sucks, then it's just going to be he's just padding his stats. Because, that's what we've always heard. Let's see. Nick says, if you keep Ryan upright, then he can be good. Right. And that's like, so you hope that they have done enough to do that. You've hoped that between scheme, players, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of ways that you can help protect a quarterback. And they're going to have to do it.
Matt's going to have to do a better job of moving the pocket. I know he's 36 years old, but they are counting on him. They are counting on him to do some things that most normal 36-year-olds will not do in the NFL.
He's going to have to, regardless. But I completely agree. False Start Falcon says, this Sunday we have a chance to be above 500 for the first time in 3 years. Dang, False. Man. How you just going? No, he's right.
1-0?
He's right. So,
I'll take it.
He's not wrong about the fact that we haven't been above 500 in 3 years. I saw that on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, and I had to shake my head. I was like, man, because I didn't never really think about it like that. But yeah. Thanks there, False. I appreciate that. Tony Wright says, oh man, I was busy and I missed the show. It's all right, Tony. It's okay. You got it on archive. Right. You can always just go back and watch. It's all good. The Real says we need turnovers on defense. That we do. Do.
We better get turnovers on defense. I started the Falcons defense on Sunday. Yep, I took the Falcons defense on my fantasy league team because I believe they're gonna get them turnovers and possibly return one to the house.
You go. You got faith. I love it. Dwayne Bodie says, I know what you mean, JR. A little bit more passing because of the skill set of Matt Ryan. I think so. Each team and each roster brings a little bit different of a skill set. Like he said from word go that, he don't have a Derrick Henry here. So you're yes, he's going to want to run the ball, but you're just going to have to go about it a different way, and you can't just line up and do the same thing that you did up in Tennessee and expect it to work. That was the problem. I mean, honestly, that was the problem with Quinn. He come down here thinking that he was going to be able just to apply the, Pete Carroll defense to this roster, and it never did pan out because he spent too much time looking for his Cam Chancellor, looking for his Earl Thomas, instead of playing to the strengths of what he had. And that's been my biggest thing for the longest time is play to the strengths of the players that what you have on this roster.
Yep. And those days are done. You're not going to be looking for personnel to fit a specific scheme anymore. You're going to be looking for personnel. If I say I can use them, I'm going to use them according to what I know they can do within the scheme.
You are.
And that's what I am excited about. I'm excited about him saying we're gonna do what we need to do, whatever's necessary to win games. And that I have not heard a coach really say since being an Atlanta Falcons fan here that we're doing what's necessary. I'm not gonna have Matt Ryan passing that ball to one guy all day. You need to find other targets because we need to spread this ball around. And like you said, we got the check down right there, Matt Ryan. Stop looking for the big play downfield and get sacked.
That's
and
it.
take
Keep
the check
that
down.
chain moving. Keep that clock moving.
Yeah.
Keep that chain moving. And, you know, in doing that, you also keep the defense resting on the bench.
Yep.
How many times have we seen our
Yep.
defense gassed in the fourth quarter because
Yep.
our offense have been going 3 and out? Like, you jump out big, and then you start going 3 and out. You can't keep building on it, and therefore the defense just has to sit there and suck wind. Let's see. Mark Giddy says, if they don't run the ball and play good defense, it don't matter what Matt Ryan does. That's it. That's what we're saying. Like, you know, Dwayne Bodie adds, a time-consuming power offense chewing up the clock. Like, it's an old-school form of thought. I know everybody wants everybody wants the flashy, like, Mahomes, like, Chiefs score from anywhere, and that's great, but, like, you saw it. Like, if he ain't got time to throw, you know, then if he gets killed, like, how many points did they score in the Super Bowl? 9. Like, I don't even think they scored a touchdown, you know, so, I mean, like I said, I know it's an old school way of thinking, but I want a, you know, clock controlling, suffocating defense, and I don't want it all to have to be on the arm of Matt Ryan. I have watched that for the past 10 years. Like, that got us to the show one time, and it failed us there because the other opposing defense figured out how to stop you, and you couldn't stop them. So, I'm definitely more excited about seeing what this defense is going to do, you know, come Sunday. But speaking of come Sunday, like I said, I've been saying it all show. I want y'all to know that Friday night we will be going live. I'm going to go ahead and set it now. I'll say 8 o'clock. We'll go live at 8 o'clock. So, you know, keep your eye on the channel for that. We're going to get deeper into the Phillies game itself. You know, hopefully by then we'll have Jimbo and Mike. But if not, me and Toby will dig deep into this thing. We have bumped up over an hour today already. It doesn't. It doesn't. Like, I keep thinking one day, like, it's going to be 30 minutes in and we're just going to be out of stuff to talk about. But it never happens. It never happens. So, but anyway, yeah, we're so as always, like, you know, keep an eye on the channel. Let's see. Hold on. I got some other things coming in down here. The Kojak Nantucket. What's up, Kojak? I'm glad to see you, brother. Fred Buzz says, JR, I don't want no Bulldogs offense. I don't want no Bulldogs offense either. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying, but I'll take that Bulldogs defense. 7 sacks. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Anyway,
give it up.
I'll take it all day long. But yeah, so anyway, as always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Toby?
Hey, Toby D1991.
Like I said, keep an eye on the channel. We got stuff coming out all the time, whether it's you know, deep thoughts on the coaching staff and stuff like that, or, you know, taking a closer look at the running backs. Like I said, I got an interesting video, at least I think it's interesting, coming up probably early part of next week. So hopefully y'all will enjoy that. And like I said, keep your eyes peeled for a new live stream on Fridays where we pretend to be the scout team. But as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.